anything I could do to convince her. And I got on Google and I was like, in YouTube, and who do I find this guy or this date doctor or this guy, someone to help me figure out like what can I do to, yeah, try to get her back.
Welcome, Josh. Thank you for jumping on the Daddy Issues podcast. I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So I'm Joshua Ayers from a small town in upstate New York. Um, Grew up here, still living here. Love it here. It's a great little town it's actually next to an army base next to Fort Drum. So it's a small area, but kind of booming. Without the base, this area would be
Yep.
pretty dead. But at a young age, I dated, did a lot, hung out with friends. Life was great. Probably, I think it was like I was 17 years old. I met my ex it's been about 2 years now, and we had two boys together. We lived here for a little while before we had kids, moved off to Maryland where she was from. We loved that area. I actually love that. I would love to go back to Maryland. That area is amazing. It's great down there. It's just super expensive.
So what did she come to New York for?
So her mom was dating a guy that was from this area, and they were in Ohio at the time, and then they decided to come back to this area. So it was by chance meeting her, come to this area. It was like, and I don't know, she was different seeing somebody from, again, not this area. So when I got the chance, I jumped right on it. She was amazing. Great, great person. When we moved down there, met her family, loved them. Life was great. Found out we were having our first kid. She actually ended up moving back here before I did because I was still working down there. And then eventually I moved back with her, had our first son, lived in an apartment above my parents' house. And then we ended up buying a house after our second son. Fast forward, blah, 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 through life. We had our typical issues as a couple. You're together, you have your ins and outs. And something that I noticed, like watching a ton of your videos, and all the guys are great. I'm sure as every dad does, everybody feels, but I heard a lot of like, you know, the ex is doing this or the mom is doing this, or, like it's a lot of struggle. Not to say that they don't have their struggles, because I'm sure they do. And it seemed like a lot of the dads weren't, I'm not saying bashing the moms, they were just, they have their stories and they're good ones. But my story is more of my issue, and that's something I thought would be unique because I didn't hear a lot about it.
We've only had a couple. I know exactly what you're talking about. We've only had a couple guys who, and I guess we'll just use the word bash, but we only have a couple guys who didn't really bash their exes or anything. Almost like uplifted them, or they put the blame on themselves, and that's the reason why the whole split. But yeah, there's only a couple of those for sure.
Yeah, and I didn't I in the beginning, yes, I had my hate, I had my anger, but um so we I don't know, it was probably 5 years before we divorced. We had some marital issues, and we went to counseling, couples counseling, and we thought it worked for a little while. One of my biggest issue is I would just go completely quiet, and I would go a week, 2 weeks without talking to her at all. Just solid, just like walk by her in the house, not even say a word, and not acknowledge her, hang out with the kids, just really some narcissistic, terrible things.
After a fight that you guys had.
Yeah, it would be like, it'd be like a fight, or like a hint of jealousy, or it would be, it could be anything that would pop it up. Even the slightest thing would just, you know, make me feel that way, and I would just go right to it just because I got so comfortable with doing it. Um, and she had her things too, whether it be jealousy or whatever. It's a marriage. You make it work in and out. But fast forward 5 years after that, um, we had actually bought a house, and this was just 2 years ago now. And we moved everything. It was Christmas Day, and we weren't really speaking on that day. It was one of those two, one of those days. We got over there, started moving things in, and it just it didn't feel right. So moving into a new situation like that, it's kind of like a couple, I guess, trying to have a kid to fix a relationship. Like it was more stress, anxiety on top of it. Then I actually got a new job where I was making more money. Money made things a little easier, but you still had your marital issues. And I just, I always hid my problems with, like, I needed a fix for it. Like, oh, I need to make more money, or I need to have less stress, or I need to drink more, just something to cover it up, no matter what it was. And I mean, eventually I was coming home with a six pack every night just to lighten the
Oh
edge.
wow.
And I just didn't know any other way. Not that I was like being a full blown drunk, because I wasn't, but I was still leaning on that to help with it.
Right. Instead of talking about your issues and talking about your problems, you're turning to, you think, oh, let me just drink and I
Yeah.
won't even think about, what we're going through.
Yeah. And then I would just push it on her. Something small would come up and she would be like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. And then well, it's your fault. You did this or you did that, instead of having an adult conversation about it or whatever. So it would just spiral and spiral and spiral. And eventually, yeah, you'd be okay. You get 2 weeks out of it. But, and it's not a problem, but I know this is something females do, and I hate to call them out, but they hold on to stuff. Like guys, you know, it's not like we don't hold on or remember stuff, but we're obviously less likely, I feel like, to do that. But
It's much easier for a guy to let shit go and be like, okay, now we're good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I feel like in the end, when we did call it quits, like every little thing I did was just on replay in her mind. And just like it was everything she had remembered over the course of 16 years. We were together 16 years. We were married 12. And
Wow.
yeah, no, it was a long time. And
That's a significant amount of
yeah,
time for sure. And you guys have two kids?
2 kids, 2 boys. Yep. Yeah. We had a dog, a house.
What does that look like when you like when you sit down and are just like, okay, this isn't working. We need to get a divorce, or does she hand you divorce papers, or like how did that go?
So in the 5 years before, it was like, hey, I have this issue. I can't do this anymore. We have to figure this out. And it was kind of like a team thing. Like, let's do this together. Let's fix our issues. But in that previous time, again, I wasn't taking ownership of my end. I was kind of just being narcissistic and pushing it on her, and not owning up to my half of it is probably why it didn't work. Obviously, there's other things, but so fast forward like to the 2 years ago when we did have we were pretty much 2 weeks without talking to each other, solid.
Wow.
And I had I had walked up to her and I was like, okay, hey, I want to be done with this. Like, let's talk, let's figure this out. And she just looked at me and she was like, I'm done. I'm
Wow.
absolutely done. And that's when I went into panic mode, and I cried, I begged, I pleaded, I did everything I could for that night. And, I was like, okay, we'll just talk about it tomorrow and we'll see what happens. So I walked away, and, the next day I thought maybe she'd be a little more lenient, and she was still pretty firm on it. Um, and then the day after that, I was actually at work in the morning. I drive tractor trailers, so I'm up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I deliver food to like restaurants and stuff like that. So, um, she had called me at like 5 in the morning. And she's like, I don't know if this is the right decision. And I was like, it's not, it doesn't feel right. We're married. This is long term. Like, this is, these are struggles. We'll push through it. I'll go to therapy myself. I'll actually do it this time, and I'll own up to the shit, and I'll figure it out. And she was just done. I
Yeah.
I called
Man,
her,
that's so
I
tough.
called her best friend and I begged her to talk to her, and she was like, Josh, she's done. She's absolutely done. And I just, at that point, again, I had some more nights of begging her and pleading her, pleading with her and trying to just anything I could do to convince her. And I got on Google and I was like, in YouTube, and who do I find this guy or this date doctor or this guy, someone to help me figure out like what can I do to,
Try to get her
yeah, try
back.
to get her back,
Yeah.
And I read all these things. I paid into a seminar. I did all this shit, and just in the end, it just wasn't going to work. She was just too far gone. Emotionally, I just pushed her away so far that there was just no coming back. And the hardest thing, like, cause we always, we were ride or die. I just like the quotes she would send me, and just like, I remember one year for Christmas, we had one of those chalkboards, like one of those big chalkboards you can write on. And she wrote on it, it was a quote. I can't remember who it was by, but it says, I choose you. And then it was like, I choose you no matter this, no matter this, no matter this, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I remember walking in my bedroom after, like, she said I was done. And I was like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean nothing, you know? So then I started to build like crazy amounts of anger after that. And I just got upset and pushed her away even more. I went and bought her a new bed to sleep in another room. And I just downloaded frickin' Tinder right away just to, like, yeah, yeah, I mean, just anything I could do to, I was just like, okay, I'll just push forward then, whatever it is, what it is. If she comes around, fine. If not, whatever.
I almost think that you have to do that to get it out of your system at least, because I think you would have done it regardless. I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. Are you guys friends now? Like, do you guys have like somewhat of a decent relationship?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been some rough roads like getting to here,
Yeah.
but like we're texting every day. We co-parent. We didn't go to child support court. We settled. We did our divorce like on our own. We didn't hire lawyers. We did everything. And that's something I learned to, if I'm going to get mad, and because of my job, I can't have my kids 50-50. I just can't.
Right.
They're
Right.
too young,
Yep.
and um, when I'm up too early, I can't get them on the bus. So she's the paternal, or she's the
Primary.
primary. So I'm just, so we're at that point now where we're very cordial and we can lean on each other for things if we need something, or we need the kids, to go somewhere for whatever.
See, that's how it should be. Like, it's if this was to happen with people, that's how it should be.
It's, I'll tell you what, it's been one of the most prideful, like, I've had to let my pride go a lot, because she's always been a powerful person, not like a bossy person, but I mean, just like, you know, I can do it. So it's not like I coasted off her. We kind of coasted off each other throughout our marriage, but she's a very independent person, so she could she can handle it. Um,
Yeah.
but in the end, there was times where I would I would just get mad. I would do this, that, whatever. So I just decided to move out. I was like, if she's not going to let me make this work, I gotta move out. Like, it's my house, it's in my name, but she was on the deed too, because we bought it together, but the mortgage and everything was in my name. So I was, I'll let you stay here. I'll go live with my parents for a while until I get an apartment or figure something out.
Now, how did the kids deal with that?
So we sat him down, and when she was like done, and we had that final conversation that was like, we're over with. This is it. And I said, okay, I'm not going to fight you anymore on it. And I said, we got to tell the kids, So we agreed to sit them down, and we sat them down as a family. We hugged it out and told them what was happening. And our oldest was 11. He was 11, and my youngest was 7 at the time. So 7 and 11. The oldest cried. He understood what was going on, and he's like a little Sheldon Cooper. Um, he's he's so smart. He's just an adult. But my youngest kind of, it was weird because he comprehended it, but he really didn't. It's like, hey, Dad's not going to be around all the time, kind of thing. And
Right.
I just, the last thing I remember telling her about it was, I said, someday you're going to have to tell them why, just be honest with them and, don't throw my name in the dirt and don't, you know, throw our relationship in the dirt. Don't, I won't do the same for you, just make sure you're real with them. And that's something that I've with my kids, and I'm sure a lot of people do it, but I tell them everything. Um, I'm so open and honest with them because I want that to be reciprocated back. I hope that they, if they have issues as teenagers or if they have things going on, I'm the first person they're going to go to. I feel like that's the best way, and I've always been that way with them.
Yeah, and it seems like both of you are literally thinking of the kids. You know what I mean? It's not about the petty bullshit that happens in between. You guys are both thinking about what's best for these children.
Yeah, that's all I had on my mind was I just got to do better for them. So then moving out, I moved into my parents' house. My parents, they rented from one of my dad's old bosses for years, probably 30 something years, and he had passed away, left the house to his son. So my dad was at the time renting a house from his son. And so I moved in and I was like, I'll probably just be here like a month, if that. I gotta wait to get a security deposit so I can get an apartment. And I was there maybe 10 days and they were like, hey, we're selling the house. So then I was like, oh, okay. My parents were okay with it because they have a camp they can move into. So they moved into their camp. And I was like, all right, so now I'm in panic mode. Now I got to take like all of my next two paychecks and just figure out
Right.
something.
Dumping it into
Yeah.
that.
So,
Yeah.
yep, that's what I did. I got a nice 2 bedroom apartment and
But that's all within 10 days.
yeah,
Like it
well,
all worked out.
luckily I know a
Yeah.
realtor and he was very helpful. I called him. I was like, hey man, I'm in like crunch mode. Like I need something right away. And so he got me this. Yep. So that was cool. Then I got everything moved in and that took me a few days. Had some friends help out and stuff. Had the kids help out. Went and got a bunk bed for them and just started to buy stuff and like fill it up. Went to like, the store Ollie's. It's like a TJ Maxx kind of thing and just like bought a bunch of stuff and filled it up and tried to make it feel like a home. And I think it was a Sunday. I had like my furniture in the living room and everything like that. And I sat down and I was just like, I had this moment of just, okay, now I can figure it out. Now I can figure out my plan, what I'm going to do. Um, then we did the divorce paperwork, got all that settled, got everything settled. That was probably over the course of like 6 months. The house is still in my name. I'm trying to get her to assume the loan. So, hopefully I can buy something this year, but hopefully she'll get that in her name soon. The bank is just dragging their feet on it. Politics.
It's so awesome that like most people be like, force it, be like, you got to get this in your name. You got
Hmm.
to do this. Like I'm trying to get my shit together, but it's like you guys are somewhat getting along to like, you know what I mean, to benefit the kids, and you're not doing the dumb. I'm sure there was arguments. I'm sure there was stuff like
Yeah,
that, but you're not going down the road of like screw you. You know what I mean? Like it's so good to hear that.
there was little stuff. Like there was one time where she had texted me and she goes, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." So I call her. I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And she goes, um, so she had got, I don't know, probably, I think it was maybe 2 months after I had been out of the house. She had got a boyfriend. I was walking over to the house every Monday to see the kids. Like I would walk my dog over there just to say goodnight and just, say hi to him. And I walked up to the driveway and I remember seeing a Jeep in the driveway and I was like, oh boy, it like crushed me. Like absolute that moment was one of the most that moment, and then there was another moment where my oldest took a picture of my youngest sitting with this guy and my ex-wife on the couch, and they're like sitting there as a family together. And he sent it to me. And I remember telling him, I was like, buddy, you can't take pictures like that and send them to me. I said, I'm not mad at you and I'm not upset. Just please, just,
Yeah, and he has no clue.
no, at the
You know.
time,
Yeah.
I think he was like, oh, look at this, but whatever. But that moment, those two moments were some of the hardest. And I had to swallow my pride and just, uh, what am I going to do? I'm going to get angry and then I'm going to cause, a fuss and
Exactly. There's nothing right. There's nothing you can do, and it just hurts because it's like, damn, you already moved on within 2 months.
right.
You know what I mean? And I'm still,
And that
grieving. But
on my end, I got on Tinder and I tried to meet people. I even went on one date. I remember telling her, I was like, oh, I got a date. And she's like, oh, good for you. And then got kind of pissed off at me afterwards. And I, if I had advice for someone going through a similar situation like that, I would be like, be a dad, focus on you, focus on your kids. And, you know, if you're looking to keep your marriage or try to keep it, don't go off the deep end. Just be patient because I think 9 times out of 10, it's just working out the emotions of what's going on. And, if there is a connection there, then you'll probably be able to rekindle it at some point. But if you want to,
yeah, that's the thing. Working it out and talking about your emotions. Just like you said, you'd walk around the house for 2 weeks not saying
yeah,
shit. That solves nothing.
nope.
It's tough.
And I knew I had a problem with that. And I was like, I, I told myself that before I get in a serious relationship ever again, that I have to be the best version of myself before I ever get back into something with someone. Because I know I'm a great dad. I'm an amazing dad. I kill it. Those kids love me. And I'm a good husband too. And I'm a good person. I'm a great guy. Everybody loves me. I don't have issues with people and I have a good relationship with my family. But I knew I still had something deep rooted. And I remember having anger problems when I was younger. Like I would just fly off the handle. I'd get mad. Sometimes I would get in fights in school and, I didn't graduate high school. I got a GED and I had a rougher go with that. So, um, I knew I needed help. So I reached out to our couples therapist that we had, this girl named Audrey. She's a therapist, and she was she was amazing. I even made a little video of like telling people not to be scared to do therapy because I know a lot of guys and a lot of people are intimidated and a lot of people are afraid to talk about it and go through it, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks having those aha moments, she calls them, like when you realize, you know, shit, like there it is. Or,
Like I'm the
yep,
problem. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And so, I think I did about 8 months with her. I started off like twice a week and then I went to once a week and then like slowly backed off. And there was just one day we got on and we started talking. We're just chit chatting about our days. And she was like, okay, well, what do you want to get into? And I just couldn't think of anything. And she was like, okay. And I had quit drinking too because I wasn't drinking heavy when I left the house. I think I was maybe on the weekends or whatever. But I told myself as I was going through this, I'm not going to drink at all. I'm going to let that go. And I did. I quit for 3 months and didn't have a sip of anything and just went through the emotions of it, wanted to be sober, make sure I was here and here for the kids, and tried to make sure I was doing it right. And yeah, after the therapy was over with and I was comfortable, I actually dated. I've dated a couple people since then, but dating sucks nowadays. People, it's I don't know. It's funny because I think I work for it's like a gas station company. They're out of Saratoga, New York, Stewart Shops. So they have like gas stations all over New York. So that's what I deliver. I deliver all the goods that go to them. And I was at a shop and the manager was like, "Hey, whatever the cashier's name." She's like, "She's single and you're single, right?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." I said, "I'm single. I'm not looking though." And she goes, "Oh." She goes, why? And I said, dating's just kind of whatever. And I said, honestly, trying to find someone like my ex-wife is
Mm.
really hard. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, I when I date and I talk to people, I look for someone like my ex-wife. And she goes, well, why aren't you with your ex-wife? And I said, well, she didn't want to be married. I'm not going to go into details, but
I love that though. Yeah.
yeah. And she goes, I've never heard a man say that before. And I said, well, I don't have. My ex-wife was an amazing woman. She was an amazing mom. She was, yeah, like I have nothing to complain about her. Nothing. She's an amazing person. And so, yeah, when I look for someone, I look for someone just like her. Not features wise or whatever. That doesn't matter. But when I have a conversation with someone and try to figure out how caring they are or how, a smile or
Now, were you upset a little bit? Like I know when sometimes like either you or the wife brings somebody new in front of the kids like that soon. Was that ever an issue? Did you ever introduce a girl to the kids like sooner than you probably should have? Or
definitely. Um,
yeah,
I mean, for her with the guy because she's still with the same guy. And so with that, it was like maybe 2 months after I had left the house, I told her, I said, before you ever bring somebody around the kids, I want to make sure you and because we had that conversation, make sure that you and I meet them first. And you know, I'm never allowed to push you out as a mom and you're never allowed to push me out as a dad. Like, they have a father. It's cool if they have another figure, but at least we got to make sure it's good between you and I. And when I had walked over to the house that day to see the kids and I saw him there, and that's when I went nuts the next day. And I said, what, you've already introduced him. Well, I didn't introduce him. Yeah, but he's in your house and the kids are there. So they had to have met him. Yeah, but they don't
right.
know
I
we're
didn't I
dating.
didn't introduce him as my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
said, it's a
Yeah.
technicality. Bullshit. Like, yeah, come on. Like, don't,
Yeah.
don't tell me that. So yeah, and I mean, she's still with him. God bless him and her. Like they're good. They're good. So, um, but I've had a few relationships that I definitely shouldn't have introduced the kids at all. One that just didn't have like the relationship was great, but the outlook where I was going because I have very high hopes. Like I want to be back in another house this year and I want to be back to being out of debt and I want to have a clear outlook of that. And when I see somebody's not there or not quite there, it's I don't know, it's hard to want I it's weird because I look and I don't know if it's an age thing or being in a mature relationship or whatever, but I like when I see somebody's fiscally responsible or, financially stable, I find that to be super attractive. And yeah. And I dated this, well, I didn't date her. It was kind of on and off, but she was like 27 years old, no kids, and she had an amazing job, her own house. And I was just like, you're amazing to me. Like that to me is just awesome compared to, some of the girls you meet. And it's like, well, I have a part-time job, but I'm collecting $1,800 a month in child support and I'm doing this and that. And
It's almost like you're gonna have to then take care of them. You know what I mean? The whole time it's like shit. Now I got three
well, the
kids.
worry's there. Yeah. Cause it's like, how do you get past like when I get on the phone with somebody or, I'm coming in person with someone and I want to have a conversation. It's like, hey, how was your day? Or, hey, oh, I missed you or this or that instead of, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent this month, or I don't know how I'm going to do this. He hasn't sent me child support yet, or this or that. So it's like, and I'm not saying it's half the women or anything like that, but geez, like how many dads out there pay so much child support that, you know, they can work a part-time job and get away with it.
Jesus. Yeah, I could go on forever with that one. And just the stories I've heard, I mean, it's just
It's
unbelievable.
insane.
But yeah. Yeah, we were just talking like the system there should be like a cap or something. I don't know.
I
But
mean, I know in New York there's percentages like per child. It's like one child's like 17% of your gross. Two kids, it's like 22%, and then so on and so forth. But I mean, with the economy the way it is and everything, and you're trying to survive, and you don't have a second income.
yeah, and then it gives no incentive for the other person. Like if you're getting 18, $2,200 a month as like a woman, what's the incentive to work at that point?
Right?
Or like or at least get a full-time job. It's like, I'm going to, get a part-time job and, do the least amount of work cuz he's paying my rent. You know what I mean? Like, it's so
And if you
frustrating.
get, like in New York, they have SNAP where you get food assistance or you get like
Right.
health
Yep.
assistance or all that. And I mean, some of these people are getting 18, 2 grand a month, and then they're getting, everything else on top of it. They're getting their food paid for, they're getting this paid for, and it's just insane.
Yeah, they're just abusing the system
Yeah.
when they're so able to work. Like, guess what? Life's tough. You know what I mean? Like the dad, even if it's the reverse, even if the mom's paying child support. So I'm not just bashing,
Yeah.
bashing moms here, but it's like shit happened. You lost your family, you lost your house. You got to work. It's not like this person's going to pay for your lifestyle or whatever. The rest of your life. It's like get off your ass and
Go
work.
do it. Yeah.
Do something. So yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and telling your story. It was definitely a positive vibe, and I love
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah. No,
that was
it's
awesome.
been a roller coaster, but I don't know, I had kind of I guess an aha moment. Like I had a few friends, like they were like, "Man, we look up to you so much," and I was like, "Why?" And they said, "Because you came out of a headspace that most people don't come out of, and you're still thriving. Like you're still doing it."
I I say the exact same thing. One of my best friends, Mike, him and his ex have such a good relationship. It's unbelievable. And I sit there and I'm like, dude, I wish I was like you. Like, that is amazing. And when you just said that, I was like, oh my God, I say the same exact thing to him because it's just so like awesome to see, even though you guys are broken up, you guys can still get along. There's no court, there's no any of the bullshit going on. And it's like, it's just, it's for the kids.
Yeah, we literally stayed away from all of that. Yep. And yeah, that's her and I just made it about the kids. That's truly what it's about.
Well, thank you so much, Josh, for coming on and sharing your story. That was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you reaching back out and everything.
You can hold me down. You can hold me down.